Hi, my name's Simeon, welcome to my channel, thanks for clicking on the video. After a slightly contentious beginning in the comics, Miles Morales has quickly become a fan favourite character, and he's a perfect example of a well-written protagonist. In this video, I want to quickly break down what the writers of Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse did to make Miles such a great protagonist. Let's go. Number 1. Make them a fish out of water. A fish out of water is a character, usually an ordinary person, who's been placed in an unusual situation. The power of this is that we as the audience get to discover things when the character does, and it enables us to empathise with them as they deal with unexpected changes and unusual situations. Miles is a perfect fish out of water. He's an everyday high school student who is already in an unusual situation before he ever gets bitten by a spider. He's won a place at an elite private school and he's not sure how he fits in there. Then he finds out he's got spider powers, there are multiple spider people who can travel dimensions, and later that there's a whole secret spider society where he is not especially welcome. That's a lot to deal with. This creates moments that are funny, tragic, and uplifting, encouraging us to feel for Miles as he tries to navigate these strange and often dangerous new waters. Or should that be land? Number 2. Make them a regular person. So many great characters start off as just a regular Joe or Jane who are longing for adventure, a chance to prove themselves, or who are trying to figure out their place in the world. Steve Rogers and the animated version of Mulan come to mind. Miles is certainly the latter of these three options, trying to figure out how he fits in at his school in the wider world and how he can possibly become a good Spider-Man. This is another great way of allowing the audience to empathise with the character. After all, they're just like us. They're sometimes clumsy, they say the wrong thing.
Hey, Mommy, eso no es my fault.
¿Qué es eso que esto no es my fault? Tú estás tomando una clase en Spanglish.
They don't know how to talk to people they have a crush on.
Hey.
This is much more endearing than a character who has everything figured out right from the start. For superheroes, it's a good idea to write the characters some real-world problems to go along with their superhero problems. Of course, that's one of the things that makes the original Spider-Man so popular. Miles is struggling to find his place in the world, figure out what he wants to do in life, and begin a relationship with his crush, things that we are all likely to experience at some point. By giving your character relatable problems like these, you'll make it much easier for the audience to connect with them. Number 3. Show they have a spark of bravery. We as the audience need to believe the protagonist is capable of something more, something greater, if they can just figure things out and find that spark of bravery within themselves. The writers show this in Into the Spider-Verse when Miles agrees to help the perfect Peter Parker, and when he breaks into the Alchemax building because he believes Peter B. Parker might need his help. Okay, that doesn't work out great for them, but it was still brave. Miles' dad says he sees a spark within him and he's going to do something amazing, which he does. Travelling dimensions and standing up to thousands of spider people and an increasingly enraged Miguel O'Hara is incredibly brave. Even when Miles journeys to the wrong dimension and is tied up by his uncle and faced with an evil version of himself and all hope is gone, we still see that spark of bravery within him, and that's what makes him a great protagonist. Number 4. Give them impostor syndrome. Impostor syndrome. Something that commonly afflicts writers and a great way to show growth in a protagonist. We sometimes feel like imposters in life, especially when we're trying to learn something new or take on a new role we might not quite feel ready for. In Miles' case, we see this visually illustrated in the first film with the undersized Halloween costume he wears, showing us quite clearly what he feels inside, that he is a poor imitation of Spider-Man. But by the time he gets control of his powers and designs his own costume, it feels earned, and it's so satisfying to see. We also see hints of imposter syndrome pop up through the second film, from Miles's embarrassing fight with the Spots, him apologising on the news,
Made a mistake.
trying to keep up with Gwen when they're web slinging, to people making fun of his costume.
What happened? You bleeding from the armpits?
And again, it's so satisfying when he finally stops caring about how others see him and realises his true potential. Number 5, have them rise. You might have noticed that a lot of films in recent years have the word rise in the title. It's inspiring and exciting to see a character rise up, to ascend to being something greater. It's something many people hope to do. Speaking of ascending, the scene where Miles jumps off a skyscraper to What's Up Danger in Into the Spider-Verse shows this brilliantly in a highly visual way. The camera inverts so that even though Miles is falling, we see it as him rising up and truly becoming his own version of Spider-Man. The writers use visual metaphor again in the second film, except that this time Miles is on a rocket rising higher and higher until he is confronted by Miguel. It's in that moment that Miles decides to walk his own path. He fights off Miguel and jumps from the rocket, leaving all the spider people behind. Even though he is once again falling, Miles is triumphant in that moment and has risen to become something greater than he was. I can't wait to see how his arc completes in the third film, but for now, I'm happy to say that Miles Morales is a protagonist who's been written really well. Anyway, that's my quick breakdown of some of the things the writers of Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse did to make Miles Morales a great protagonist. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, and consider sharing it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Miles in these films, if I missed anything, and if you have any characters you'd like me to cover. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.